Joining us now for a rare joint interview, the top Republican, the chairman, and the top Democrat, the ranking member on the House Intelligence Committee, Republican Chairman Mike Turner from Ohio, and Democratic ranking member Jim Himes of Connecticut. Good to have both of you. Thank you so much. We always appreciate the bipartisan interview. Chairman Turner, I have to take care of some business first because obviously it is actually an issue of national security right now as to whether or not Congress has a functioning body. And I want to check in with you on this speaker vote. Are you happy with the prospect of a Speaker Scalise?
Well, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. We came out of our conference with 110 votes for Steve Scalise that he can take to the House floor. He needs 217. At this point, he's working to try to communicate how he can bring the conference together. There are a lot of members who are undecided. I'm one of them. There are those that are absolutely opposed. And he's going to have to make the case as to how he can pull the conference together after what has been really a traumatic time and chaos on Capitol Hill.
Why are you undecided, if I may ask?
Well, he came out with 110 votes. He needs 217. He's going to have to, obviously, he's going to have to give us a message or an understanding of how he's going to bridge that gap and make certain that he brings Congress together and not divide the Republican conference more. That's going to be an important message. I know he's working on it right now. I certainly wish him well. But there's work to be done to get to 217.
All right, back to Israel. Tell our viewers why there is this disconnect, you think, on how Republicans and Democrats are understanding the same pieces of intelligence.
Well, I don't think the gap is very broad here. I mean, because we all know and understand, even in public outside of the intelligence, that Hamas is a franchise of Iran. They supply them the rockets, the munitions, the training. Your reporter was listing all of the things that Iran supplies them. So the fact that the Hamas would undertake a terrorist action when they're being trained to be a terrorist organization and funded by Iran is not really a surprise to anyone. So there's no exculpatory evidence here that could indicate that Iran is not involved when we know for all this time that they're really responsible for Hamas as a terrorist organization.
So, Congressman Himes, obviously there's a disconnect between Israeli intelligence and U.S. intelligence. U.S. sources are telling CNN that senior Iranian officials, in their understanding, were caught off guard by the attack, even though obviously Iran funds Hamas, as Chairman Turner just said. What's your take on the intelligence? Do you think Iran knew that the Iranian regime knew that this attack was going to happen? If not on that day, at least imminently?
Yeah, Jake, I'll tell you what I think, which is that we are making way too much over the statements of a bunch of members of Congress who don't know, who don't have access to the kind of intelligence that the chairman and I do. For what? They are still pulling bodies out from under bushes. They are still tracking down murderous terrorists. We will have an opportunity to see precisely what Iran knew when. The chairman makes exactly the right point, which is, unless you need to know by an Iranian official who exactly signed off or did what or when they did it. We know that for decades, Iran has provided weaponry, financial support, and all sorts of other support to Hamas. So, of course, their hands are not clean here. But this is a sort of fog of war situation. We're getting conflicting reports as well. Again, I would suggest that the focus right now needs to be on supporting the Israelis, on making sure that we can keep the hostages safe, and making sure that we do force protection, meaning that our men and women in uniform are protected abroad.
And Chairman Turner, is the U.S. doing everything it can to help rescue the Americans who are likely being held hostage in Gaza?
I think that the administration and Congress are unified in this. I can tell you that when we had our classified briefing, one of the things that was clear is among Congress is there's overwhelming support for Israel. I know this administration, from the reports we were receiving, are absolutely deploying as rapidly as they can in all of these areas. And I think certainly you heard the president say, I can't tell you everything I'm doing because we're in the actual conflict as it's unfolding. But I think certainly the administration is absolutely committed to undertaking intervention here.
And Congressman Himes, what's your message to any American who's watching right now who has loved ones missing, who likely are being held as prisoners to this terrorist group in Gaza? Are you confident that that person's government is doing everything they can to bring that captive home?
I am, and of course there's probably nothing you can say to a family who has a family member now inside of Gaza in the control of some just murderous terrorists. I'm not sure there's anything that's going to make them feel better. But the United States and Israel share two things that I think are very, very important right now. Number one is a set of values that we do not leave people behind. We will spare no expense. We will fight any fight to make sure that our people are recovered. We will negotiate. We will do everything that we need to do. The second thing, of course, the United States and Israel share is remarkable competence in such things. And, we'll have an opportunity to dissect and do an autopsy on what appears to have been an intelligence failure with respect to the larger operation. But the Americans and the Israelis are about as good as it gets with respect to keeping hostages safe and ultimately recovering them.
Chairman Mike Turner, Ranking Member Jim Himes, I love the bipartisan appearance. More of it, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.